Welcome, I'm Rabbi Phil Bressler of Beit Am in Corvallis, Oregon, and this is the daily summary video for the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch Yomi Daily Halacha Learning Project, covering the passage from Siman 83, Seif 3 to Siman 84, Seif 4. You can find links to the Hebrew and English text of this passage and to the calendar of upcoming passages in this video's description. We're still talking broadly about the melacha of carrying. That's transferring something on Shabbat from one domain to another one, and continuing talking about the niche issue of enclosure of partitions around dwellings. So small spaces that are fenced off for non-dwelling purposes, remember these are things like gardens, orchards, etc. If it's adjacent to a courtyard, as I said yesterday, think of a courtyard as like your backyard, a place where you live, sort of an extension of your home. You can carry between there and the courtyard, in between your little fenced off garden and your courtyard, because they're considered one domain. But the transitive property doesn't apply, and your small fenced off domain garden isn't part of your house's domain. So you can't carry all the way back and forth through the two by means of your courtyard. Basically, the for dwelling purposes rule applies in order to combine your partitioned off. It still applies in order to combine partitioned off domains. Changing the status of an enclosed space from not for dwelling purposes to for dwelling purposes can be accomplished. You just knock down part of the fence that's bigger than a door width and then rebuild it. Now you have built that space for dwelling purposes. What about going in the other direction, though? Changing the status of an enclosed space to be from for dwelling purposes to something not for dwelling purposes. That's probably not something you do intentionally, but it could happen if you plant certain things. Planting trees, even an orchard's worth of trees, won't actually do it. People use trees in their dwelling spaces for things like shade. The footnotes add here that decorative plants, even those that are not tall enough to provide shades, are also normal in spaces used for dwelling, so they don't actually change the status either. What does change your for dwelling space to not for dwelling is planting vegetable seeds. That'll change the status depending on the size of the area and the coverage. Note, you can always partition back off the part that you want to dwell in from what's now a garden and get your carryable courtyard back. Okay, on to more carrying outside of your home on Shabbat. Carrying garments and ornaments. So there are two kinds of objects that are exempt from the melacha of carrying. These are either things that are considered garments, stuff that you wear, or ornaments, stuff that you decorate yourself with. Immediately there's a gray area to encounter. What about things like pins and needles that are stuck into your garments? I'm going to read out, for the most part, the male-female distinction here and say that ornaments and garments that are usually fastened with pins, those are okay. The pin doesn't count as an extra piece. They count as a garment or ornament. The exceptions to this rule are certain garments and certain ornaments that are nonetheless prohibited to carry. These are also unfortunately gendered. For example, stuff that women would take off to show someone, that's prohibited, like certain pieces of jewelry that can come on and off. Watches for men, those are prohibited. Keys to your house, say, are a big issue, because how are you supposed to go out at all without locking your door and bringing along the key? The Kitzur talks about ornamental silver keys, which I guess are a thing. Those are okay because they're considered ornamental and not functional. The footnotes mention that functional brass and steel keys, what you're probably thinking of right now, those are in fact prohibited. Now, what I've commonly seen is folks incorporating their key into a garment or an ornamental item that they then wear, having it be a clasp in their belt buckle, for example, or worn as part of a bracelet or a necklace. If you make it into part of your garment or ornament, now you can carry it and do what you need to do. Eyeglasses are prohibited to carry, I think even worn on your face. As an extremely nearsighted person who wears contact lenses, this baffles me. I get the worry about taking them off, because then you're not wearing them anymore, and glasses frequently come on and off, but still. In contradistinction to the way that you might do something on Shabbat with a shinui, like a twist, when it's not prohibited, but you might otherwise look while you're doing it like you're doing something prohibited, unless you did it, with a twist, so you don't do it the regular way. Don't actually do that for garments and ornaments that you're carrying out on Shabbat. don't wear them in an unusual way, because actually what makes them permissible to carry is davka precisely their usualness, their ordinariness. And that's what allows you to go out basically with them as part of your ordinary Shabbat dress. That's all for today. As always, our learning is dedicated to Rabbi Shlomo Gansfried, the author of the Kitzur, and the historic Jewish community of Ushrad, Ukraine. See you tomorrow.